Now we're good. You're like, hey, there's just a big empty screen there. Sorry. I have all this stuff up here to make things like work better for me until it doesn't want to work better for me. So I'm not sure what the deal is with that. But hi, welcome to my shop. It's Friday, April 2nd. I hope everybody had a wonderful April Fool's Day. It was cold as all get out here yesterday. Nature's playing its little April Fool's joke on us here in Virginia, where we've been having 65 and 70 degree days, and then all of a sudden it's down to like below freezing last night, and my shop this morning was, I could have stored meat in here. It was that cold. So I had to run the heater this morning. I didn't get it up to as high as I'd like to. I really wanted it to be warmer in here. It's about 62 degrees. It's a little chilly. I might have to put a sweater on or sweatshirt. But anyway, it's a little chilly this morning, but that's okay. We'll make do. We've got things to do here. I've got my little heater on right now just to kind of try to keep the coldness at bay. But it is breezy outside. I'm kind of sad because my cherry trees are in full bloom, and my pear trees along my driveway are in full bloom, and all this wind is going to make the little blooms come off, which is sad because they look so beautiful when they're up there and in all their glory. But I mean, that kind of always seems to be the way. If you live around cherry trees, for whatever reason, you can always plan on having a storm right after the bloom. I don't know why. It's just the way it is. Whenever it's like bloom, it can't stay that way and be nice weather for a week. It has to be bloom, and then some sort of like high wind storm comes along. It just, every single year, it never fails. And we lose our blooms, and it looks like it snowed in my front yard for a little bit, but that's okay. I need to do yard work this year too. I retired, and that was one of the things I said was, I need to get my yard in shape because my yard is, well, it's just a big pile of dirt and weeds for the most part. It's sad, but it's true. And a buddy of mine's like, you need to be thatching and overseeding and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, but when do you do all that stuff? I don't know. I need to figure that out. I need to go get some stuff and do that. And yeah, so that's kind of like maybe this weekend, like everybody else in the world, I should do it during the week actually, because at least the weekend warriors will not be clogging the home store, and I can probably get my supplies I need a little easier. But then again, you risk that all the stuff you want is gone because the weekend warriors have come in and cleaned everything out. Plus, you can't hear it, but so my neighbors, I got a little thing in the mail. It's really weird. I got a thing in the mail saying, oh, your neighbors want to raise chickens. It was like not a ton of chickens, like 10 chickens or something like that. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I don't have a problem with anybody having chickens. I live on 1 acre lot, neighborhood. So, and it's wooded and such, and we've got good separation between the houses. So I wasn't really worried about it. I mean, I'm hoping they don't have roosters who can't tell time, but that aside, I'm like, I'm cool with that. But for whatever reason, I don't know what they're doing. I need to take a walk down and look. There have been, I swear to you, it's been 100 large dump trucks bringing fill dirt to their backyard. I have no idea what they're doing. I don't see how anybody could need that much dirt. Not for chickens. So anyway, I need to take a ride down. Maybe I'll just fly my drone down there and just spy on them a little bit, see what they're doing. Because honestly, it is a nonstop parade up and down my street. I live on a cul-de-sac, so it's only one way in and out of my street. And they have just been a nonstop parade of trucks coming up and down my street for days now. It is really crazy. So I really need to walk down and see what they're doing. And to top it off, they're repaving our road this week. So I got that going on. So lots of noise in the shop. So hopefully it'll be kind of mellow while we're in here today. Speaking of being in here, and maybe while you're here, instead of just not listening to me yak, is that we are going to do some more work on our sewing machine bases. And let's see, where were we last? Last time you were here, hopefully you were here last time on Wednesday, we made some lids. Well, we didn't make lids yet. We're going to do that today. We're going to make some lids. these are the bases right here that need lids. So you can see there's a storage compartment on the side here. And the storage compartment is very nice. And it's pretty big. You can put some stuff in there, but I don't just like leaving an open one. I like to have a flat surface here to kind of finish the lid off. So what we did was we actually put a rabbet cut in here. Let me flip over here so you can see this. So there's a little shelf now right here, a little rabbet cut that we did all the way around the perimeter here. Looks really nice. We did that on Wednesday with our little rabbeting bit on the router table. And we did that for all 4 of the bases that have storage compartments. And the other thing we did on Wednesday was we had book matched some wood that we cut. We took basically a thin piece of wood like this, and we made it thinner. We cut it right down the middle, flipped it open, put it together. That makes what's called a book match, and that book match looks like this. So let me see if this one shows a little bit better. There we go. So you can see how that's nice and pretty and kind of symmetrical. There's a center line with the pattern kind of meeting in the middle there. And that's what you get when you book match a nice piece of wood. And then I will cut these down today. So that's kind of where we're at today, is we're going to cut these down. I have 2 of them. I had this large piece that I had done, and it just wasn't enough length. It's 24 inches. I need 7 5/8 inches per lid. So I could only get 3 out of this one right here. So 1, 2, 3. And I have 4 compartments. So I went ahead and did another piece just to have an extra. And I think I can use the leftover wood for something else on I keep calling it my mistake base. We're going to try to fix a measurement error that I made in that one. But it's going to turn out cool. I have no doubt. I'm positive it's going to look cool when it's done. But for now, we're going to concentrate on the ones that are good and just need bases and such. So, no, my neighbor is not named Purdue. Thanks, Mary Jo. No neighbor named Purdue. I didn't even know my neighbors down the street had moved. I think they're renting the house because I never saw a for sale sign, but all of a sudden there's like new neighbors. And so I'm just homebound during COVID. I don't get out much. So I guess my neighborhood has changed around me and I didn't even realize it. But anyway, let's see. Yeah, so we're going to take these and we're going to measure out the pieces that we need to fit into the bases. And then we will size them and round the corners and make them fit nice and pretty in here. And these are a little thicker than the rabbet that I made for the bases. So these bases have I believe I went for a 1/4 inch on the rabbeting bit. Let's check that and see. Yeah, so these are 1/4 inch thick on the rabbet right here. And these things are a little thicker than that. These are maybe 5/16. 3/8 to 5/16 thick. I did kind of hand plane these down to get all the rough surface marks on them from the resawing, and they're fairly flat, at least on one side. And so the trick is that I get them all flattened down. I don't take them down to the 1/4 inch size beforehand. What I want to do is take these down and size them to fit in the rabbet. And then once they're in the base itself, then I'll get my hand plane back out and I'll run the hand plane over and then lower these down so that they're flush with the rest of the base. And that way I really get a nice, perfect flat top for these bases. If I did it the other way, if I flattened them now, there's a chance I could take them too low and then you can't go back from there. So I much rather flatten them while they're actually fitted in the base so that I can get them exactly to the level of the base itself. So that's kind of what we're looking at. The other thing that we're going to be doing with these is, because this is a symmetrical pattern that runs down the middle, we don't want to just stick this like on the side here and say, okay, well, let's just measure over this far and cut this board up this way, because I like to have that symmetrical pattern running right through the middle of the lid. I just think it looks prettier that way. It just, you know, it's yin and yang and balance and whatever you want to call it. But that's the way I like to do it. That means it's a little bit more work to get them that way because we have to take equal amounts of wood off of each side to get them to fit in there. And that means over the table saw, I'll make a cut and then we'll measure, I'll make some lines. We'll figure out exactly where those cuts need to be, and then we'll measure and kind of work our way in to get that exact fit. If I was just using a piece of wood that wasn't book matched, I would just measure from the side, cut that off, and then we'd be done. But that would be easy. Who wants easy, right? Yeah, so we're going to use this ruler right here to help us with that. This is a, I think Woodpecker calls it a standard scale. It's a woodworking rule. I got this for one particular reason. I mean, it's just a, how long is this thing? 24-inch ruler. It's a 24-inch ruler. It's got a hook on the side here, so it will, you can hook it onto the edge of your board, and it gives you a really accurate measurement. But it has a really nice other feature on there, which is a center scale. So put it up here so you can see. Hopefully you can see that. So right here in the middle is a 0 mark, and then the measurements go out, so 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, etc., etc. But they go out from a center mark so that you can mark exactly on each side. So if you need 2.5 inch or 5 inches, you measure 2.5 out from 0 this way, 2.5 from this way. It gets you a perfectly centered 5 inches. And this is a really handy tool. I got it for doing guitar stuff because when you're doing guitar bodies, a lot of times the guitar bodies are, you have a center line and you want things perfectly aligned up on that center line, so that gives you a nice 0 point from that center line, and then you measure outwards. But I find that for doing cuts for like these book match and stuff, it's really, really helpful. So I will use this to kind of figure out exactly where those marks need to go. They'll go over to the table saw and we'll make some cuts and see if we can't get these fitted widthwise. Once they're fitted widthwise, I'll take them over to the miter saw over there, and we'll cut the ends off and get those nice and squared up to the right dimension. End-wise, it doesn't really matter. We just take one end, measure down how far we need. They don't need to be centered. Just this center line cut to make the width is what we have to work so hard to make sure that we're being symmetrical with. So, yeah, and my center line, actually I did a really good job gluing this because sometimes it's hard to see. So it's like you want to put this in a spot where that line is more apparent. But yeah, this is a great rule. I really like this thing. Once again, Woodpeckers makes awesome stuff. Super, super exact machining on these things, and you pay a premium for that. So just be, you know, if you start looking and go, oh my God, that thing's so expensive. Yes, it is. I did get it at a woodworking show, so it was at a discount at the show, but you know, your mileage may vary. I'm going to take this remote thing and put it in my front pocket because it's kind of, I'm sitting and crushing it. So I think that's a little better. Okay. So that's what we're looking at. We're going to take these, we're going to center line these, we're going to measure each individual one, because that's the other thing, is these are not the exact same measurement from base to base. I mean, they're close, usually within a 1/16 of an inch or so, but they are still a little different. So each one has to be measured. You can't just make repetitive cuts on the table saw and come out with everything hunky-dory. Each one has to be measured. Also, that means I am going to have to cut these down. Yeah, I'm actually going to need to do the width first. I'm thinking about this, but because I can't do that, I can't just cut them all the same. I am going to have to cut these into individual components. I'll oversize them just a hair. So if they need to be, what's my measurement here? I think it's 7 5/8 or 9/16, something like that. Yeah, 9/16. I will probably cut these all to 7 5/8 pieces, and that will allow me to individually shave them down for the width on the table saw. So first things first, see, I gotta think these things through as I go. First things first is we're gonna make these the proper length, and get them into 3 separate pieces on this one and then 1 extra on this one. I am going to use this piece for something else too, the leftovers. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, that'll work. I just got to look and see. I'm going to use this side. So I'm going to start by measuring these. So this one is 9/16. And so I'm going to make this 7 1/8. And let me get my, I swear to you, this is not an advertisement for Woodpecker, but they do make some of my favorite tools, at least when it comes to measurement. All right, so I'm going to measure this at 7 5/8. That gives me just a little bit of, maybe I'll make it a little bit more than 5/8. Because I want enough to work with and make sure that it's square. So I will square up the end, then I'll go over and slide it down. Let me do it first. So many little things to think of. All right. Can you see me over here? You can see me over here. I'm not going to be here long, but actually, you know what? Let me do this the right way. I didn't do this the other day, and somebody said, you know, you really should hook up your dust collection and stuff, and they're not wrong. It's just a thing. So enjoy looking at my posterior for just a moment. Sorry about that. But let me hook up my dust collection. Let me get my electric, because that's also a thing. When I use this, I have to use my electric and run it to this individually. 1 cord to run them all. And then, you know what? It's awfully dark back here. Let's turn some lights on. How about that? Woohoo! Look at that. Let there be light. Not my shop. Much brighter. I don't really need it when I'm sitting there talking to you to start, but for work-wise, man, there's nothing like being able to see when you're cutting your wood. So, all right, I'm going to shave this down really, just square the edge up so that it matches. So from here to here is 90 degrees. Just get a nice clean edge to work with. Then I can make a measurement, and then we'll make a cut to length on this. So the first cut is just gonna shave off a little bit off of that edge. Make it run a rope. Okay, let's do a little fan or a little dust collection, and we'll cut this. Okay, so this edge is, I guess I'll leave those there. So this edge is now square to this edge. And I'm just gonna make a mark here so that I know which one is which. And then make another mark here, just so I know which edges are squared up. And now I can go ahead and measure this. When I said 7 5/8, maybe just a hair more. And there's 5/8, and we'll go, tell you what, let's go ahead and go to the 3/4 mark. So 7 3/4, just to make sure I have enough wood to play with. Now I get my woodpecker square here, and we'll take that line all the way down. All right, now I will put this back in the saw, cut this off, and then I'll have 1 piece to work with, and then we'll get on to the next one there. All right, so real quickly, I will line this up with the blades. I do not have one of those like laser-sided ones. I mean, I guess those are cool, but I don't know, I just go old school and eyeball it. All right, here we go. All right, now what I want to do is just measure this and see how much we have to take off here. So now I'm going to use the base. I'm going to try to get this exact on here, or close to exact. So I'm going to figure out where that measurement is right there. That's pretty good. And I'm just going to I don't want to take too much off. I can always take more off. You can't put it back on. So got to be careful when you're doing this kind of stuff. If you're not, I'm going to use this for later, by the way. So, all right. Let me get that on the blade right there. That looks good. Heck, it was quick. So the off still just a little. Let's take a little bit more off of here. I'll use my little method of switching. Okay, just taking a little bit off at a time. And this is called sneaking up on your cut. Just trying to sneak up. Oh, nice. Nice. Okay. Let me just show you what we're getting for a fit here. Obviously I can't rest it inside, but I try to check each side right there. You can see that fits nicely in that rabbet. And then I check this edge and it also fits nicely in the rabbet. So this one is done, and I will rest that inside the base. That one fits that one. All right, now we're gonna work on to the bigger one here. And we will start by just taking one of these edges down flat. I'm just gonna look to see if this edge, it's nice having a very long roller sometimes, because I can do like this and look and see that edge is really straight. So I'll use this as my fence edge, and I'm just going to take a little bit off of here and then use that as my measuring to go this way. So let's do that really quick. This part of the thing should go pretty quickly. Hopefully. Famous last words. All right. Now let's get a measurement on this and see what we need to do. This is almost what is it, 5/8. I'm going to go a little over 5/8, and then we'll shave it down. So here's 5/8. We'll just go a hair over, like a 1/16 over. That ought to be good. And that. All right, let's see how that works. Take off this end? Yeah, I did. Hang on a second. Let me just, so I know which is my straight edge here, just making a mark. So I can go back and put the straightest edge against the fence. That always helps. And let me get this just right there. All right. And always a little bit of fuzz, just want to knock it off. And put it on this side. There we go. Let's see what we got for length on this one. So we are well over. Did I use this one? Yeah, this one. So I still have about a 1/16 of an inch to knock off of here. So let's go ahead and shave it down just a little bit more. Set this aside. And press this in. Let's do one more. I forgot to turn my air on, and I can tell. I can tell when I don't turn my fan on. I wish I could just have one of those automatic ones where you plug it in and it automatically turns on your stuff when you turn the fan on, or when you turn the machine on. They make those, and they're really nice, but unfortunately, it would not work with the way my circuitry is set up. I need to come off just a hair more here. Let's give it a run. Ooh, that's really close. That's, yeah, that one was really close. I mean, yeah. Thing is, you don't want it to be too tight because you need it to allow for some movement and thickness of your finish and stuff like that. But that one, perfect. We get that one down. This one, let's measure this one. And this board now is straight, and this cuts straight right here. I got 290s here, so let me go back to this camera so you can see what I'm doing. I've got a nice 90-degree here, so I can just now measure off how much I need for this one. I don't have to go through that whole pre-cutting thing. This one is almost, it's just a hair over 5/8, 7 5/8. So let's measure this one out. Here go the trucks. Just moving along. It's like I live in a construction zone or something. It's kind of crazy. 5/8, so I'm going to go just a little bit more than that. So I can sneak up on this. Let's get this one marked up here. All right, one more cut on this. Making progress. I need to just keep moving because otherwise I'm going to freeze to death in my shop here. Yeah, I will say that I love my Delta Cruiser saw, which is what that is. It's the Cruiser 12-inch compound miter saw with the robot arms. It's an awesome saw. Dust collection though on that thing is garbage, which is kind of the case for most compound miter saws. There's very few that have decent dust collection. That one has less than decent for sure. It is not great. I even made a little scoop thing back here with some tape to kind of push the stuff to where it's supposed to. I guess it helps, but not much. It is what it is. It's not great for dust collection, but we do what we need to do. All right, let me get this shaved down. But it is a great saw. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's kind of sold as like a contractor saw. It came with like a portable rolling stand for it, which I don't need in my shop here. Obviously, I've got a table set up for it, but it's made so you could take it to the work site and move it around and have a big stand to put it on, and which is a great feature. It's just not a feature I needed. And if you're working on a shop site, I guess dust collection not that big a deal. But in my shop, yeah, that is probably the biggest offender of putting crap in the air in my shop. It's just, yeah, it's that way. Let's see here. One more to go. We're getting really close here. Let me get my last piece and get some measurements on it. Last piece to measure here, and then we can start looking at the width. Now this one is not as wide. This one is only 9/16. But we will go ahead and do the whole, yeah, this actually worked out well. I have just a tiny bit of wood left over here, so measurements worked out that time. There's 9/16. I'm going to go a little bit more, and then we'll shave it down. We got a good thing going here. Let's not screw it up. It's working. I like it when things are working. I usually end up just holding my breath while I'm making cuts on there. just to keep that garbage out of my lungs. I should probably be wearing a mask, but I'm moving back and forth so fast, and I'm not cutting a ton. I'm just doing a little bit. So I figure I hold my breath while it's spewing the heavy stuff out there. Please don't use me as a model for safety and health in the shop. I am not a model citizen when it comes to that by any stretch of the imagination. All right, a little bit more cutting. But I actually am literally holding my breath when I make these cuts. Cleaning the edge off here. Oh, so was that gonna? I mean, it fits, but it's tight. And like I said, I have to allow for putting a finish on here and stuff, which does add a little bit of thickness to the wood. So I'm going to shave this down just a little bit more. It can be just a little loose. It doesn't have to be super tight. Doesn't have to be airtight, that's for sure. Let me take a little bit more off. All right, I think that's going to get it. I went ahead and locked the blade down because I think we're good for the moment. Let me make sure. Oh, much better. There we go. So that's good. All right. Well, we have all that done. Tell you what I am going to do real quick. I'm going to take the hose off here and just do a little shop cleanup because I don't like the dust to sit on my controller here. So give me just a second to spruce up. Alrighty, I'm going to put this into the table saw because that's what we're going to move to next is the table saw because we will start cutting these things down. Now that I have them sized and each one is living in its little pocket over here, we will figure out exactly what we need to make the width fit. And then once we get the width, I will use my penny trick. For those of you who watched me do the base bottoms, not penny, it was a nickel actually. I use a nickel, which the radius of a nickel almost exactly matches the radius, pardon me while I plug in my table saw, exactly matches the radius of my rabbiting bit that I use for these. And so I use that nickel as a guide to shave the corners down and make them look nice. All right, let's grab one of these. We can start working on getting this measurement done here. I'm going to use the calipers for this. I can take my ears off, I guess. Oh, there we go. I don't have to talk as loud because I can actually hear myself now. Sorry about that. I had a nicer pair of calipers and then they died, so I got these Pittsburgh 6-inch composite digital caliper. I mean, they're kind of, it's Harbor Freight. I mean, they're not great, but they work and they're pretty accurate. I mean, they're not to the 1,000th of an inch, but they are to the 100th of an inch. And that's usually pretty good for me, to a 100th of an inch for a lot of things. And so up here, I get at the very end here, I've got like 4.43. Down here, I've got 4.44. In the middle, because it wants to bow out just a hair, 4.45. So I'm thinking 4.44 we can use as a starting point. So yeah. Now the thing I liked about my my other calipers was it actually would work in fractions too, which as a woodworker, you gotta love having a caliper that actually gives you your readout in fractions. I think it went down to like the 64th of an inch or the 128th, I think maybe it went to. It went to like 128th. It was really, really nice. I need to invest in a new one. I just haven't found one that I like yet that doesn't cost like a gazillion dollars. I mean, like Starrett makes a great one, but Starrett kind of much like Woodpecker. Tools are expensive. All right. You know, I could go old school and just go, well, we'll just stick that in there and that's that and that's that and whatever. And so I am working with like 16ths. And so now I have to figure out, so what we got here? 2, 4, 6, 7 16ths, 4 and 7 16ths. And we want to go in half of that. And, you know, I've got, this is so cheating. It's not fair, but I do this. It's really crazy. But 4 and 7 16ths divided by 2 is 2 and 7/32. By the way, just freaking love having an app that does stuff like that. Because math is hard. Math is not hard if you're smart. But if you're me, math is hard. So we said 4 and 7/32. I don't know that my scale goes up to 30 seconds here. I think I get 16ths on here. So we'll just kind of have to go in between there. So, yeah, there's my face. So 2 and 7/32. I'm going to get my center line on the 0 here, or right on my line. Make sure I've got that line. It's hard to see that line too. Go up here where I can actually see that line a little better. Now that you get to put a mark right on it. I did a nice job of the glue up here because my center line is very hard to see. So 2 and 7/32. Well, that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7/32 is right here. So it says I need to take that off of there, and then I need to do the same thing on this side. So 1 mark here, 1 mark here. Now, if I set this up right on my table saw, I could do it one of two ways. I could set the amount off of here that I have to shave down, but it's a really thin piece that's going to come off of each side. So let's look at the table saw and see how we want to work this. Let's see what I got. Look at that table saw cam. There we go. All righty. I'm going to move this out of the way for a moment. Let's go to the table saw and figure this out. I might need my pencil and my square just for good measure here. And then there's also another great tool. Let me grab this tool really quick here. This is a saddle square. Oh, and that's going to be trouble. There we go. So I've got this thing called a saddle square. That's what I call it. It's a saddle square. It looks just like this. And I got this on Amazon, I think. But really what it allows you to do is take a measurement on one side of the wood and then perfectly lay it down to the other side of the wood so that we come in and we get that mark right where we want it, 7/32 right here. And then I can take that line and go right around the corner. And that way I got a line that is perfectly matched to this line right here. And that does a really good job. So as I was saying, on the table saw, first let me get my blade up to an appropriate height for making the cut. We could do this one of two ways. I could move the fence all the way over, right, and then just shave that little piece of wood off of here. And then once I did that, I could flip it around and do the same thing on this side. And it should give me the exact cut that I need because I'm cutting the same amount of wood off of each side. The problem is that's really thin. Is this going to fit in there? Let me see. Let me see if this is going to fit. If this is going to fit, I might do that. Actually, that will fit. And the thing is, I want this to be able to fit between the fence and the blade without obviously destroying my thing here. And it has a really thin edge on it. I can move these around, but this has a really thin edge. So this allows me to keep pressure on the entire piece of wood, keep it close to the fence, past this, so I've got pressure on both sides of the blade. And then having these cushions on this side allows this to push all the way through the cut, so you don't get it trailing off or kicking out, and then you're not going to get a nice straight one. So I think this actually might work. Let me get my saddle here, and actually I can do it this way. Let me check this and see if this is going to, I don't like that piece right there. Let me get this edge down here. All right. Now, also, the other thing is if I do it this way, at least for the first cut, it really needs to be accurate. It really needs to be, let me just look at this again here. I'm going to trace this one over as well. You really need to be accurate when you do it this way because then it gets harder to shave it down. Now, I can just shave this down using a hand plane after that point because it's going to be such a minor adjustment that you wouldn't notice that it wasn't super asymmetrical, but okay, see that one? Yeah, so let me move this in and then, oh, I know what I want to do. Just want to check this to make sure those lines exactly, you see that doesn't line up in there. So what did I just measure? Always check your measurements. That's what we want to do. All right, I did measure for this one, right? Yeah, this is the one I measured for. So let's check it again because that is not giving me the measurement I want. Oh, life is fun. All right, try this again. I'm just going to say for the time being, we're going to call this 4.5, which means I need 2.25 from the middle. So 2.25 on each side from the middle. Is definitely not what I've got here. Did I move my other pencil? I have this pencil thing, right? My pencils just vanish on me. And I'm not crazy about this one because the lead keeps popping back in. All right, where did I put my pencil? There it is. All right. So 4.5 is just a little large. So if I say 2.25 minus, I don't want to do a 16th, that's a little much. Minus 32nd, let's go right here. Yeah, I was off. 2.25, I was off. Which is why you need to check these things a lot. Check them a lot. Check and then check again. I mean, it's a pain, but I mean, better to do it now, right? So much better to do it now. Okay, that one, and we're going to put the saddle on here and check this one and make some lines to make sure that we're in the right spot. All right. Whew. Glad I did that because it would have been much harder work. Okay, that is going to be perfect. Okay. Let's go back over to the other camera now. Try this again. Let's go over here and find our new cut line, which is going to be right there. That's nice, right there. Ooh, nailed that one. This still gives me lots of room here. I'm going to move this over just a little bit. There we go. All right. Now we can take that one and cut it off right there. Flip this over. Should be the exact same spot right there, and it is. All right. That was a lot to get to right here, wasn't it? A lot more than I anticipated, but better to take your time and do it right. Let's go ahead and make a cut here and see what we got. Okay. I'm okay. I ran that one a little far forward and boop, down it went. But all is well. All is well. Let me, let's come over here and do a little measuring here, a little checking it out here and see if we got that width. Pardon me. You just see here. Oh, nice. So like I said, a little slop. It's not perfect, but it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to put finish on here. It'll build up the width a little bit. So I would have liked it to be just a little thicker, but I can live with that. And then width and length. So we're good. All right. And then here's what I mean by it. Now you can see it's like very symmetrical. This side actually more so than the other side. So this side actually is really pretty. Maybe do it this way. Put it in there like this. But I really love the way that looks. So technical difficulties. But yeah. All right. One down. Let's do another one. Shall we? Like I said, the problem with these is if you cut too much off, then you get them too thin, and then you're kind of just sad because there's not much you can do to fix that except make a whole new thing. 2, 4, 5 sixteenths, 4 and 5 sixteenths, 4 and 5 sixteenths. Yeah, of course it is. Let's stop. I don't want to rate your thing right now. Thank you though. 4 and 5 sixteenths. Okay, so we got 2 and 5/32, whatever that would be. All right, 2 and 5/32. Let's find that mark. I'm going to mark my center line again here just so it's easier for me to see when I'm, because I did a good job on the glue ups and that center line can be difficult to see. So we're going to do 2 and 5/32. So put that right on my center line. And let's find 2 and there's 2, 4, 5/32. Should be right here. And 2 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/32. You know, I think I got it wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 2, 4. Yeah, see, that was my problem. My problem wasn't me measuring wrong. The problem was me not understanding what a 32nd looks like on this ruler because there are none on here. So like 5/32 is just like a tick mark past an eighth. And That that should do it. So let's go ahead and put the saddle on here. We will run that line. Make sure I'm right there. I just want to check this on the base first. We'll use the base as, you know, just check these lines. That's why I kind of like them to go over the edge, because then I can just rest this on top of the base over here. Just rest this mark that I made above. See if it matches up. And that looks pretty darn good right there. All right. Now take this over to the saw, line that up, and make another one. All right. This one actually is a little bit less than this one. Taking a little bit off there. All right, I'm going to make this sure. Just want to check this one more time. Yeah, that's what it shows. All right, make that line right there. And I'm actually going to try to cut right on the pencil line. Right there. And then if I flip it over, it should give me the exact same spot, and it does. All right, let's cut this. All righty, let's see, moment of truth here. Moment of truth. Yep, that looks nice. Once again, you know, a nice little, we can pick whichever side we want to for the book matching. And usually these things, by the time you're done, you can flip them, pick whichever one you want to be the outside portion. All right, sir, you are done. And you are done. Moving on. Let me measure the next one. We're doing well here. Got good progress going on. Good progress. Like that. Okay. So I've got my next one here. Just gonna do the same thing. Measure it across, figure out what my half mark is, transfer it to this, and take my ears off for a moment because I forget I have them on sometimes. All right, this one is, ooh, 3/8 exactly. That makes life a little easier for me. A little easier for me. So that should be what, 2 3/16. So I think that's, you know, I would rather check it and just make sure that my math is right. 3/8 divided by 2 equals 2 3/16. Just like to have my math right. Can you tell I'm a little paranoid? I've screwed things up before. It's just, you know, it has happened. I'm going to go with this edge right here. It looks nice. I can tell there. So 2 3/16, which actually this will be easier to get those marks because this actually does have 16th marks. I wish this had 30 seconds. That would be sweet. It does not go that accurate though. I wish it did. Try to get my line. There we go. Okay, 2 3/16. And 2 3/16. All right, got my saddle here. Let's run this. Get my pencil lead a little longer. Okay, do the same thing on this side. I tell you what, I think this is like 10, 11 bucks or something for this little saddle thing here. Super handy, really nice to have. It also has a 45 built in. It has scales on it, like millimeter scales. I think this is a Japanese, made in Japan tool. It's pretty accurate. This is Japanese on here, not Chinese. But it also has a 45 on here, which is nice because if you needed to do like a line that went straight here, but then went over to 45, you get a really accurate 45 on here. So I've used that feature on here as well. Very accurate. But for right now, I can check. Let me just check this really quick against my base. And it looks like that is going to fit nicely in there. So we will go over to the table again and make this cut. We're doing good. We only have, this is number 3. So we'll have one more to do after this. Little scrap pieces here. Should be going thrown away, but I hate throwing away scrap wood. You just never know. All right, this needs to go out just a little bit right there. Excuse me. Pardon me. Just making sure that the cut is going to be in the exact same spot on both sides. Okay. Looks like we're good there. Actually, good. Just giving it just a tiny, I mean, like a hair. I'm moving it seriously, like maybe the width of a couple of hairs. That's how much I was moving it when I tapped it. But that's, you can tell when you're looking at your measurement lines. All right, one more. Alrighty, let's see what this one looks like. Moment of truth on this one. That one was a little thinner than I wanted, but it's still, like I said, these don't have to be perfect. They just have to set in there. So it's a little thinner than I wanted, but that's all right. But I do like this one. Has a nice little pattern on it too. So nice pattern on this one. All right, last one. Let's go back over here and get some measurements for this one. And I probably could have done without tapping that last little tap that I did on the, that last tap I did on the fence there. Probably could have lived without that. But you know what, is what it is. We will make it work. As I said, when I put, because I usually do multiple layers of lacquer on these things. So I lacquer them up pretty well so that they have protection. So they get stained. Stain doesn't add any thickness, but lacquer adds thickness. And when you count the lacquer on one side and then you add that to the lacquer on the other side, now you've got enough that it is measurable in the distance because it adds up. So, because like I said, I'll do like four to 6 coats of lacquer on these things, and that builds up. So you do build a thickness, and that's why I said I don't want these to be a perfect fit, because then I actually couldn't put any lacquer on the edges. They would just have to be lacquerless on the sides. So by the time I add lacquer to these, those will fit much tighter in those spaces. Additionally, not only am I putting lacquer on the lid, right? I'm putting lacquer on the base. So this base will have lacquer built up on the thicknesses around the inside of that rabbet. And as you're building that thickness up, that again is going to impact the fit of that base. So having a little bit of room in there, not a bad thing. And sometimes people don't account for the fact that their finishes, depending on their top coat, does add thickness to their project. And then you end up like having to sand it down to get it to fit right. And also wood swells, moves, you know, depending if it's moist in the air, your wood's going to swell. Even though you're putting a finish on there, it's still going to move and do things. So having a perfect squeezed together tight fit, not the best thing in the world. At least not where I'm concerned. All right, Checking, no comments, no questions, no queries, no posers. That's fine. Moving on. Let's get this last one measured here, and then we can start rounding the corners. And I pulled my my flip top card out there, and we're going to use that for rounding the corners, but then we're also going to kick into some flattening with my planer, and we'll get to that in a few minutes, but it's pretty cool, and I want to show you that. Let's measure this before I get too distracted with myself here. This one also 4 3/8, and also 4 3/8. Now that 4 3/8, which was 2 3/16. Let me put this over here. I want to remeasure that again when I get this over there to make sure I've got that exactly lined up, because like I said, that one was just a hair thin. Yeah, that's all right. All right, I'm going to take this and put my 0 mark right on the glue line, which is right in the middle. I enhanced it with a pencil mark because it's hard to see. And that's the mark of a really good glue line. A glue joint is when you have difficulty seeing that joint, like if you isolate a section of it. If you look at the whole thing, you can see it. But if you isolate just a piece of it, it's like, oh, where's the grain end? 2 3/16. So it's hard to see where it ends on one and starts on another piece. So I'm happy about my glue joints. They look really nice. They're very tight. I know I'm excited about a glue joint, right? That's my life right there. Excited about a glue joint. That's kind of sad, but it is what it is. I'm going to move that a little bit. Come on. There we go. Get this one marked. Same thing over here. Get this one marked. I like to put the pencil in my pencil mark and then slide this up to the lead. And that usually is more accurate than trying to line this up on your pencil mark and then get it in the exact same place. If you take your pencil lead and you stick it right on your pencil mark that you made and then slide this up to it, it's not always easy, but if you slide up to the pencil lead, you'll get a much more accurate pencil mark on there. All right, I'm gonna grab this thing. Let's check this just to make sure my cut lines are gonna be where they need to be. Yipper, that looks pretty good right there. I cut on the line. Okay, looks good. Let's go over to the table and finish these cuts, shall we? Bye, Mr. Truck. Have a nice day. See you in 20 minutes with another load of dirt. Seriously, it's like I don't know what they're building over there, but that's a lot of dirt. It's like you could fill in their entire backyard with that much dirt. Maybe they're building like a swimming pool or something, and they need to build up. I have a very my lot is most of the lots on my street are very hilly and treed, very heavily forested, which I love that about my yard. It's mostly wooded. And like I said, they're like 1 acre lots. So, but yeah, there's a lot of like gullies and hills and things. So it's like I'd love to have a storage shed in the back, but there's not a flat place to be found to put one. So, all right, last cut here. Let's see how we did with this one. That's like really thin, but like I said, not too bad. All right. And width-wise, we're good. Okay. All right, I think we're okay. Let's see what we're gonna do. We're gonna move on from there, and I need to grab my trusty nickel out of the tray here, and I'm gonna come back over here so you can see what I'm doing. All right. All right, so we've got these nice lids all cut in size to fit inside of the bases here. But they won't fit. I mean, they're not going to fit because they're square. These are round. So we have to make these corners round. And to do that, we turn to Thomas Jefferson and his trusty nickel radius here. And I will put this down onto the very corners here, and I try to find the line where my pencilette is just on the wood, but not too far in. And then I just draw this radius on there, and I'll show you close up. That's what I mean by, if you can see that. Right here, I drew, can't see that, hopefully you can see that. I drew that little radius on there. And I will just do that all the way around the corners. And then once I get the radiuses drawn, or the radii, multiple radiuses, radii. Once I get the radii drawn on here, somebody tell me in the comments, is that correct? Radii or radiuses? I don't know what the plural is for radius. More than one radius. Anyway, once I get them on here, the roundy things on here, I will take it over to my sanding disc and just knock these edges off. Oh, that one's done. And then, like I said, I just always stick them back in the same base. Now that they're cut to size, I don't want to get them mixed up. So I always try to put them back in the same base that they came from. There we go. But I just go around the sides, mark my radius, and then we'll take it over there. I'll run these against the edge. Now the other thing I do on these lids, which I don't have to do right at this moment, but the other thing I do is I actually put a notch in the end of one of them, or in one of the ends, and the notch is a finger, basically like a finger hole. I did somewhere I put the hole right in the middle of it, and I put a hole right in the middle, about the size of a nickel. You could put your finger in there, kind of like one of these holes. So you can put your finger and pull out. I did that, but I'm not really crazy about that design. So what I do is I put a notch, like if I look right here, I put this in the middle, and I would just make like a, here, I'll do it right here and show you what it looks like. So I do like this, I cut that out. You can see that little circular ring I did right there, right at the top here. So I'll cut that out, and then I'll just kind of get my my sander out, and my spindle sander, and clean it. But that makes a nice little grip for when this is in. You can just put your finger in there and pull the lid out, and it's just a nice little, it's just one of those nice little touches, you know. That's why I said I kind of make nice little touches on these things that just add to the quality and the value of them. And they're just thoughtful little things that somebody says, oh my gosh, it's so nice that I can actually just, you know, put my finger in that hole, and instead of having to try to get my fingernail in the edge and pull it out. Well, that's a lot of work, right? And the other thing is I could put a lid on here, like a drawer pull type lid on these, or not lid, but handle, like a drawer pull type handle right on top. But then you're interfering with the flatness, and if you wanted to use this as a surface for, like I said, you can flip these around and have this in the front of your sewing machine. and if you're passing fabric through your sewing machine, like if the needle's right here and you're passing fabric, you don't want a knob right here that's going to get in the way of that. The whole point is that it gives it a nice flat surface that works with the sewing machine. Yeah, so that is my solution, is to just put that little cutout in there, and I find it works pretty well. Most people really like it. And like I said, if you don't put one in there, then you have to like use your fingernails to try to get the lid off when you want to, and that's not the most elegant of solutions. So give them something they can use, but doesn't destroy the aesthetic. And I think the first one I ever made of these, maybe first or second one, did have a knob on there, and that was really cool, and I was impressed with myself. And I actually made the knob on my lathe, and I was like, look how nice this is. And first of all, making knobs on the lathe, not sustainable. It just takes a long time to set up. You got to get the wood, you got to make the thing, you got to get the distance right for the screw holes, and it's not really, I mean, if I was making a complete custom whatever, that would be fine, but when I'm trying to not be a production shop but be productive, that really doesn't help out very much. So all right, I have this one. I'm going to check all the corners here. Okay, all the corners are done, which means we can now proceed over to the disc sander, and we can round these things out. Let's see. I think I have a camera set up for that. Right. Ooh, look at that right there. So there's my disc sander on my flip top cart. That's not facing the right way because I was not thinking I was going to be using it right now, but re-examining my order of process, looks like we need this. So I'll put this way. Just a big giant motor on here. It's a 12-inch direct drive benchtop disc sander. That's all it is. It's kind of got I think it's like a 120 disc on there. It's a little, I'd like to have a less gritty, more fine paper on here, but it does the job for right now. And these things are a pain, a royal pain to change. I mean, yeah, not fun. I'll tell you what, let me just zoom in on that just a little bit for you here, just so you can kind of, let's see here, get a little zoom there. That's not too bad. Not too bad. Is it just me, or does that look a little fuzzy? I can't tell. No, I guess that looks okay. I'll try not to get in your way. And I say that, and then I just stick my big head right in the way, but I had to grab my power cable. We'll plug this in, and we will get some dust collection because it does create a bit of dust. So I will just run the dust collection into the side here. Maybe. Smooth things around. My little mobile shop here. All right, this just fits inside. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I will take this lid and I will knock these corners off, and then I will bring it back to the table here, or to the base, check it really quick before I move on to the next one, just to make sure we've got that sizing correct. I normally would need to use ears. This is not a very loud sander, but the dust collection is. So I'm going to put my ears on here, and then off we go. Good. So let's stay right here. There's the lid. Out. A little closer sheets. Here we go. It's just like that. Next one. This one is a little. Yeah. Yo. I know that was riveting must-see TV, right? Very exciting. But on the other hand, um, oh, nice. I got a correction here. So actually, I'm not a correction, but a confirmation that I could say radiuses or radii, both are correct. So thank you, MJ, for the info. So I can now say radii. Makes me sound smarter, which is not really true, but that's okay. All right, so really what we've got now is all these bases that fit in here nicely. The only thing lacking on them now, well, two things. One is that I have to make that notch for the finger hole because this is what I mean by like pulling it out with your fingertip there. Luckily, right now, these are sitting proud of the surface on the side. But when I get done with my, when I bring out the, well, this is not the right one, but when I bring out the hand plane and start flushing these things down, squeaky, it only squeaks at the end when it stops. When I bring this down to flush it to the sides here, what will happen is that it gets much tougher to actually get this thing out. So it probably makes sense to actually cut out my my finger holes first, and from there it makes life a little bit easier to get these things out. I don't know that I'm going to flush these up right now. Hopefully you can see, hang on, let me stick this back out of the way here. So hopefully you can see, let me put the other camera on here and you can see what I'm talking about by the fact that, there you go, so you can see that, so these are just a little, we call it in woodworking, we call this proud, which means it sticks up past the rest of the surface there. So these are just a little bit proud of the rabbet. From tapping on, I can tell it's pretty well seated on the underside. So it's pretty flat against the, there's no tipping or anything, but it does need to be shaved down now. And I do that with a hand plane. And some of them are closer than others. Now this one right here, which was actually, this was the single one, not from that one that we cut 3 pieces out of. This is the single one. And this was a thinner board to start with. When I did the resaw on there, I started with a thinner piece of stock. So this board, not nearly as much. And you can see this is actually just a tiny bit above the surface here. This will not take much work with a hand plane to get this really seated well. My bench top is not wonderfully flat here. That's not the base, that's my workbench. I need to reflatten my workbench. But yeah, in fact, let me, hang on a second. I'm gonna stick this just to, yeah, it's nice and flat on my, it's super flat on my, my tabletop for my table saw, which is what I use as a reference surface. I don't use my bench. It'd be nice if my bench was a reference surface, but I just do too much banging and stuff on here. And like I said, I do need to go in and give this a nice flattening. So when I go to check to see if things are flat, I'm not going to use this. Anyway, this one will not take very much work to get this flush and flat and square down. And then getting this one out, like I said, going to be a little bit harder to do because this is a pretty good fit. And finger notches probably the next step on these. I used to brute force these things. I have a spindle sander, and I used to just wear out some paper. A spindle sander is basically a round sanding tube that oscillates. It spins and goes up and down, so it works against your wood. And so it's not only sanding, but it's also going up and down, so it doesn't leave a ton of marks on there. It's kind of a really nice tool. I'll pull it out here in a minute, actually. But I used to brute force it in there and go tear up some sandpaper trying to create a notch just by using that, and it would burn the wood and such. I've since gone to a different method, which is I just use my bandsaw and I just kind of make little cuts on the bandsaw until I get that 90% cleared out of that little notch that I'm going to make. And then I use the spindle sander to just kind of clean out that notch. It's faster and it looks so much better. Where are we at here? 12:28. So let's see, we've been an hour and a half here. I'll tell you what though, before I get to that, let's hop away from these for just a moment. And we're gonna do one thing over here at my cart where we just were. I've got to make corners for my, hang on a second, I've got a piece of wood here that I set aside. So I need to make corners for the sewing machines to set on. And typically what I will do is find a thicker piece of wood that hasn't been shaved down to 3/4 of an inch so I can have some thicker triangles on here. What I end up doing on these is I will cut these on the table saw, and I don't know if I can do it on here, but let me get the other camera here. What I will do is I'll run these through the table saw with my blade on a 45-degree angle and cut like a section of this off so you can see. So I'll cut a triangular strip off of here, and that allows me to cut those down to size and glue them into the corners. Before I do that, I've got one side, I've got two sides done here. So this has been jointed, this has been jointed. So this is flat and this is flat, and this is a square 90-degree angle right here. But this piece of wood is not, it's right now, it's kind of trapezoid shaped. And by that I mean on this end, I can tell you on this end, it is 1.06 inches, and on this end, it is 1.03 inches. So 5/100ths of an inch difference right here. And you're like, well, that doesn't make much of a difference. And it does, because when I run this through the table saw, I'm going to have the saw blade is going to be tilted this way. And because the saw blade is tilted in this direction, it's going to cut right here like this. And so you can see that line right there. So it's going to cut that way, which means all this surface up here needs to be finished. It can't be rough like this. This can't be rough wood when I do this. In order to bring this down, and I could run this on the jointer again, but what will happen is a jointer is just going to flatten this edge. It's not going to take into account that this end is thicker than this end. And that's why you can't joint both sides. You have to go and use a jointer and a planer when you are milling wood. You joint one side to get it flat, then you joint one edge. You can run this against your fence and your table saw and get one square edge over here, but to get this side flat, you have to put that in a planer, and that planer uses the base of the planer table as a reference surface, and then the blades cut the top off like this. So it's running on a reference surface and then does this. So you need a flat side. That's why you do the jointer on one side. You do the flat side against your reference table as you run it through, and it'll make this parallel and clean and match the other side. If you just flip this over, you would get a nice flat surface, but it would still have this dimensionality which is not parallel to each other. It would be trapezoid shaped. And that's why you can't do a jointer on both sides of your flat piece of wood. It takes a jointer and a planer. I mean, there are other ways people do other different methods, but in general, that's how it's done, is you joint one flat side and one long edge to make a 90-degree angle right here. Then you plane this side so that it matches this side. Then you cut this to width with this against your fence, and then you get a very square, 4 square sides on your board. Now, over here, let's go back to this look right here. I have my, my disc sander that you just saw, but my disc sander sits on this special cart that I made, which is called a flip top. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so you can see this. So let me zoom a little bit out here. And let me point down a little bit so you can see. There we go. All right, this is my flip top cart right here. Underneath, you'll see there's something underneath here, right? There's things living under here. This is my planer that lives under here. And the way that I get to it is I loosen these star knobs on the sides. So there's knobs on the sides here, and there's knobs on the side here. Because I have a very small shop, I just don't have enough surface area to keep all these tools. And this allows me to roll this over, pull these back in, and there you go. This is a flip top cart. So I have two tools. They're mounted to this table in the middle. There is a pivot rod that runs through the length of this thing. And then once it's in position, I tighten down the knobs again. And now I have a planer existing in the same space that my sander was in. And these are fairly large tools as well. They're not light by any stretch of the imagination. And having to lift these out from my cabinet and set them down on the surface or whatever, just a pain. So I made this flip top cart maybe a couple of years ago, I want to say, and it has served me so well. It is just great. Plus I can store it out of the way. I usually have the sander because where I put this, it fits underneath a cabinet over there, and I need to turn it this way. I don't know if you can see, there is a drawer at the bottom, so I can store things in the drawer at the bottom. But in general, yeah, this thing is awesome. I built this off of a set of plans from Fix This, Build That. Brad is the guy who runs the place. Really smart, excellent woodworker. If you've never watched his channel, I highly recommend watching his channel. It's really good. And he's got these plans for sale. So you can go and download a set of PDF plans for this thing and make your own. And it gives you cut lists for all the wood that you'll need, the plywood and such. This is made from 3/4 inch ply. It's like double and triple stacked in some areas, but also like a complete hardware list of all of the hardware you're going to need to build your own. And then you can make modifications as you see fit. It just gives you that really nice solid framework for making this own cart. And I can't tell you how awesome this is in saving space in my shop. It just does a great job. Now I need to insert this into my table here because this is once again, my friends at Harbor Freight supplied this to me. Not really, I made this and they didn't know that I have it. But it's a half decent. This is my first planer and I'm still working on it until I can get me a substitute. The only thing that I wish it had, and the one they sell now actually does have flip out table arms. This one did not. So in order to keep your work surface as flat as possible, I made this as a sheet of melamine that exactly fits within the blades inside here. And does a pretty good job of giving extra support to your piece of wood that's coming through. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this board over here that we just looked at. So I'm going to take this board and I'm going to take the flat planed or jointed side. I'm going to run that through this table. Right here, it's going to hit the blades that live up in the motor part right here and then come out the other side. Oh, nice and beautiful. But I have to get the sizing set up first. I don't care how thick this board ends up. I'm going to try to keep as much thickness as I possibly can. That's really my objective here, is to keep this board as thick as possible so I can get as much use out of it as I can. Just move things away. All right, now here's the tricky part. I can't plug this into the same circuit that my dust collection runs in, because it would pop the circuit. This is a lot of juice coming through here. I'm not going to be pushing this really hard because it's not a big piece of wood, but I do run the dust collection because it makes a lot of dust. So I have to run this into a different circuit. Now, the circuit I'm plugging it into is the one that all of my computers and stuff are running right now. So fingers crossed we don't kill our internet feed with this. I do have to put ears on. It is very loud. I am going to run a dust collection. Let's go ahead and make a pass and see what we can do here. We got to get this flat so we can make some corners. Let's give it a try here. All right, here's fingers crossed. All right. That is that. It's all we needed to do. But you can see, hopefully now, that there's now two parallel flat surfaces there. And they should be fairly close to each other in measurement. Let's come over here and see how we did measurement-wise. Let's see here. So now 0.96, 0.96. So we've got now equal measurement on each side. If I wanted to take this rough edge off now, I could run this through the table saw and we would have a very square piece of wood. That's in essence how I go about milling all of this wood that I get, because I like I said, I buy rough cut lumber, and it's just, to me, it's more economical. You can get exactly the thicknesses and such that you want, but it's a little bit more of a process. I mean, I could go get some finished boards. Problem is, you're not going to find surfaced boards at your Home Depot that's not like pine or maybe just some, maybe oak, but that's about it. The other thing is that you can get this stuff usually if you're buying from a yard, not a lumber yard, but like a wood supplier. They will surface for you. Usually they have the tools to do it, but you're going to pay a premium for them to do the woodworking portion for you. So you take that into consideration. But you can, you know, if you don't have all the tools, but you want the wood and you want the cost savings, it's still cheaper than going to a big box store to buy wood, even if they surface it for you. You're going to get better quality wood. It's kiln drying, really nice and surfaced. You're just going to pay a little bit more of a premium for that wood because they're going to do the surfacing for you. Sometimes you can find the stuff there that's actually surfaced on two sides. So you'll get a joint and a whatever, and you can finish it yourself that way, or three sides. You'll see like S2S or S3S. This would be S3S. It's surfaced smooth on three sides, and it has one rough side. Anyway, little wood education for you. But the goal for us was to get this flat and get a nice workable surface right here, and we did that. And the reason that was our goal was because now we can go back over to the table saw, and we have to do some modifications to the saw. So let me make sure my table is not plugged in. I'm going to move some stuff out of the way for a second here, so pardon me. I don't need this cord. I'm just trying not to get stuff to trip over here. We are going to need dust collection, but I don't want to put that in yet. What we're going to do is we are going to tilt our blade on the table saw to 45 degrees. And is this still set up on my table saw? It is. All right. So we're going to tilt this blade to 45 degrees so that we can get that cut that's going to give us our corner pieces. Move this over just a little. And to do that, so I first have to take this guard out here. This is a zero clearance insert, which means that the blade really just runs on this surface right here. You can see that this slot right here is very thin. That was actually cut by my blade as I raised the blade up through there. It's a solid piece when you buy it. And that gives you a really exact fit on for your blade. But I can't tilt the blade with that one in there. I have to put this one in order to tilt my blade, because my blade needs to tilt at a 45-degree angle. To do that, I use this fun little thing. This one's Capri. I think Wixley makes one as well. It's just a digital angle guide. And when you turn it on and you set it down, it will give you like the angle of the surface, and then you can zero it. Like right now, this surface right here says 0.2. So if I zero it out, now I can use, this will be my reference, and then as I tilt my blade, I can get the exact 45 that I need. That being said, this is actually my reference right here, this little area right here. And I'm gonna zero it out again, just right here. So that's 0. I need to raise my blade up. So I'm going to come down here to the table and raise the blade. And then what I do is I just stick this, it's magnetic, stick it right to my blade. Now I have to bring the blade up high enough that I'm not touching the teeth. I just want the flat of the blade. Because if I'm touching the teeth, the teeth are a little wider than the flat part of the blade, and it'll create that little bit of a tilt in the angle. So I'm just going to raise it up a little bit. I have to go over here and loosen the angle now. Then I will start tilting this thing until it says 45 degrees. Now, once I get the tilt done, I can lower the blade level down. I don't need to have it this high to cut. I just do it this way when I'm getting the angle, and then I lower it. Okay, it's a little far. All right, and you just kind of have to let the 45 degrees. Now, after it says 45, I usually take it off and check to make sure I'm still at 0. See, this is not at 0. This says 0.4. That's what I thought. Let's zero that again. We're going to take this back. Yeah, I didn't think that was all the way, because usually I have to crank it pretty hard to get right at 45, and that was a little easy. So right there, 45 degrees. And then I do this again when I just reverse it when I want to go and take my table saw blade back to its vertical position. Is I zero the table, and then I will put it on this blade and then bring it all the way back until it says 90. And that assures me that I have the exact angle that I want. Now, I'm going to take this piece of wood right here. You can see how high that blade is. I don't know if you can see, but that blade is this high above. It's way too high. And it makes it hard to push through too, because then your fingers are like right there. I'm like, I don't want my fingers that close. All right, so I'm going to bring this blade down until it's just going to clear like this. So that gives me enough clearance. Then I have to figure out, okay, well, I need my 45. Where's my 45 cut going to be? It's going to be off of this. Which edge? I want to do this edge. You know, it never works out the way you want it to. All right, I'm going to have to draw it on here. I've got to, I'm going to draw my 45 on here. Remember that little guide that I said I had? Right here? There it is. It doesn't have to be exact. I know where my end of my board is. Yeah, all right. So in order to do this right, you can do it this way. It's just, I'm going to have to square this board up. I'm going to cry for just a minute because all that work I just did for this, I have to go back and do it again. Because I need to square this up. It's just not going to work out unless I have that edge. I was hoping to get away with that, but I'm going to have to square it up. So this won't take too long. Let me raise this up. We're going to make this back to a 40 or back to a 90-degree cut. We're going to trim this board down, get it exactly squared up on each side. And then we will trim that edge off. Then we can drop our blade to 45. Then we can cut our triangular piece out. And let's see, almost there. 89.9, 90. All right, there's 90. Let's go ahead and, the other thing I need to do is make sure that I've got clearance. I'm not gonna knock any tools off when I do this. I'm gonna bring this edge in. Let's lower this down. It doesn't need to be that high now. I don't have to put the other blade guard in right now. I mean, this is the one that comes with the table. That other one is one that I purchased as an after. I mean, it's made by Delta, but it's an aftermarket or after the fact. It is not an original to the blade or saw manufacturer. It's not original to this machine. It's an additional purchase as an accessory. That's what I wanted to say. All right, let me get my saw set up here. That looks good. We're just going to shave the edge of this off of here. So all we're going to do is shave the edge of that off and make it square to or parallel to this side right here. You know, everything's a process. Or as I like to say, nothing's easy. Let me go put my dust collection in and put some power into the saw really quickly. I say quickly, you know, quickly with safety in mind. Let's not cut steps or rush through any processes, but make sure we're getting everything done. All right, I have dust collection in. I have power to the saw. I have my thing here. Let's go ahead and make this nice and square. Okay. All righty. So now we have a clean surface here and a clean surface here. And now we can go forward. It's a process. Now we can go back to the process that we were doing of tipping that blade. I'm going to unplug my saw. I don't like messing with my blades like this when I'm actually doing a setup. It just, pardon me, it can just be a little nerve-wracking. I need to raise this blade up. Let's set this back to 0 right here. And we'll zero this out. Actually, it works better when it's up all the way. Let me do this. And the reason I'm zeroing to this plate as opposed to my table is that the wood is actually going to run along this, because it's thin wood, it's going to run along this plate. So this is actually the reference surface. So I reference my angle off of this plate because that's where most of the wood is going to set. And if that angle is off, then it will screw everything else up. All right. Raise it up a little bit and time to tilt. So we'll get this on our 45. And I mean, do they have to be exact 45-degree triangles? No, but I just think they look nicer. You know, things that are just kind of askew just never look right. Is that? Okay. Put this in the right place here. says that's 45. I'm not believing it. I do like this little angle gauge. It is really nice. It is pretty darn accurate, but I'm just going to double check here. Yeah. And then I'm going to double check that here. All right. I can tell by feel when I'm right in that sweet spot of the 45, because I can get a 45-degree tilt and not much more, just maybe like 1 degree more, but it gets hard at that last degree, and I can kind of tell when I'm in that neighborhood. All right, that says 45 degrees. That says 0 degrees. It actually says 1 now. Really, you're going to say 1. And you're going to say 45, right? You're going to be nice to me? Yes, you are. Okay. Now we're at 45. We can set our depth now. I locked this in, by the way. I've got little locking knobs on these things so that when you get it in there, you can lock it down. Let's get that so my blade tooth is in the right spot. Okay. Lock that down a little bit. And then now we can mark our 45 on the edge, and we can run this thing through. See, we've got a nice edge here. And so when I push this thing through, it's just going to look better. All right. We'll take this, and we need to mark a 45 on here that comes off of this corner, right, like that. I'm going to take my marking knife here, just do it this way. It's the sharpest marking knife in the world, but it should be good enough for this. We're just running this through some end grain. And it's just a line for me to use as a setup. Can I see that? I will grab my pencil really quick and just darken that line up just so I can see it. Whew, my shop's getting chilly again. I had to turn my heater off when I ran that planer. And wow, tell you what, I am all for that warm weather coming back, because it does get chilly in my shop. I just run that line with a pencil that I just made with my marking knife. All right, that gives me my reference to line that up in here, because I need that line to be right on the outside. I need this line I made to be on the outside portion of the blade. That's where the cut's going to be made. And that looks pretty darn good right there. So the other thing I need to figure out, ooh, when I locked it down, did it shift? Yeah, it shifted just a hair. That's the thing, is like, I lock this blade down, and then I always go back to check to make sure. Make sure that I'm clearing my blade here with this, that I'm not hitting it. And it looks like it's going to hit it just a little bit with this one, so I'll move this over. There we go. There we go. All right. Now the other thing I can do that I could do is put a feather board in here. A feather board pushes the board against, so I could run this through and push it, and that feather board would keep it tight against there. I'm going to use my hand as a feather board until I get to the very end, and then I will use this. I'm not going to come near the blade with my hand. I'm going to be back from the blade, so it just allows me to just keep nice pressure. And then when I want to go to this, I don't have to stop and take the feather board out and then use the guide to go all the way through. So to me, it's just a little bit easier cut. All right, put my ears on. I do have to check dust collection is still in there. It is. All right. And we'll plug this back in, and off we go. All right, let's make a cut here and see what happens, shall we? All right. Okay, so you can see this is what we're left with on this board, is we've got that little wedge right there. Now, if I need more triangles, what I'll do is I'll just run this through flat side on the table saw like this. I'll turn the blade back up to 90 degrees, cut it this way. I've got a whole nother strip of corner supports there to work with. This is what we ended up with right here. So it's a nice triangular, long triangular piece of wood. And these will fit into the corners. And let me go over here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Take my ears off, come back over here to the corners. I'll just grab this base right here and come over here, and you can see, hopefully you can see, that these are now triangular in shape. And I will put these in the corners of each base. They'll sit in the corner, but I will cut them off at a point where they rest just under the lip of the under the flat part of the sewing machine, and allow it to set down inside and be hopefully flush with the edges here. But that's how I make the corners. And then these actually get glued. They don't get glued to the bottom. That's why I said these base bottoms do not have any load bearing to them. They don't hold the weight up. These hold the weight up, and I cut these pieces to size, and then these pieces get glued to the side pieces right here. And I have a special way that I clamp them, and that makes it really secure. Like I said, I've never had one of these fail. My corner supports never had one fail. So good progress there. We've got a lot of stuff done here. We've got some good corners now. I might have to take this. I have to figure out how much I'm going to get out of this one. The only thing I don't like in it's, I don't know if you can see it, but I try to avoid it, but notice the burning from the blade right there. I did pretty good on this overall, but I did get a little burning at this end right here, which not a big deal. I can sand that out. It's not heavy, and there's no real big saw marks on there either. So, but if you look, that's a pretty good triangle right there. So that 45 degrees works really well. And like I said, I like to have a thicker piece of stock so that I get a fairly substantial triangle. These machines are heavy. They're anywhere from 10 to 15 pounds probably. And I like to make sure there's enough wood in those corners to really give good support to them. So, so I'm thinking if that might be where we go ahead and can knock for the day, and we can pick back up on Monday. We can do some stuff. I might, well, I've got some other projects I need to work on and get out of the way so we can keep working on these. I also have some other projects in mind that it's not base related, and I'm kind of looking forward to doing some of those. Let me get off that camera. I bought a new bicycle not long ago, just a, not a super expensive mountain bike, just to try to, as the weather gets nice, to try to get back into shape. So I have that, but bikes these days don't come with kickstands. That's not a thing. I don't know when having kickstands became not a thing, except for the fact that with mountain biking, it's all about like less weight and keeping things really simple and not having things that will get in the way. Like when you're riding through a trail or whatever, you don't want something hanging off your bike to get in. So they do not come with kickstands. But that does present some issues when you just don't want to lay your bike down in your garage or whatever, which mine is over there leaning against my lathe table right now. So I did some research and found some stuff on making some really simple bike supports. So I would like to do that. And that's a scrap wood. That's a great scrap wood project. I will probably start combing through some of the scrap here and find out some options to make that. So we'll be making one of those soon. That's something that anybody can make in their, you could probably make it with hand tools. It's not overly complicated, but it'll be fun. I'll try to make it a little fancier and make it look nice. So that's something I want to do. What else is on the agenda? I don't know. I've got a lot of projects I need to get done. Little things that I want to kind of get going on. I want to get back into my guitars. I've got a couple that have been sitting here for a long time. I really want to to progress those and get to the point where they turn into guitars and not just pieces of wood laying in the shop. That would be awesome. I am going to keep making bases because, like I said, the bases are what funds all of the other projects that I do pretty much, because I don't sell things. That being said, I do have, you can see it behind me right here, this semi-round thing right here. I think I've showed it before, is a big oak cookie, as we call it. It's a slab, it's a center slab section. It's about half of one. And I want to turn that into a table, like a coffee table, and probably sell it. So that would be pretty cool. The wood was given to me, so there's no cost there. I will probably have to make some sturdy, like I'm thinking of walnut leg supports for it. And so that's something I want to get done. I've got another cherry slab tabletop, coffee tabletop over in the corner that's been flattened, but I need to get that finished. And those things I'm looking to sell, so they're not going to hang around the shop and just take up space. And that's kind of what I need to get some of these things done that will give me back some of my space. And let me move on to some other things. I was just this morning researching automated legs for a standing table. I have a gaming desk downstairs. I do video gaming stuff, and I play with my kids sometimes, and I call them kids, my adult children. And anyway, I've got a huge desk and stuff downstairs, but I'm tired of sitting, and I want a standing desk. And there's some kits that I found that are really great for automated standing desks. So I could have a desk that is like this high. So you can buy just the legs for those. So I might want to make a tabletop desktop for that, and maybe put a cool drawer or something in there, and some cable management, and maybe a built-in wireless charger and some other stuff. So I kind of got some ideas for that too. And so I need to kind of just move things along. And but those are things that hopefully, if I do those things, you can join me on the ride, and we can do them together. But anywho, let's see. Nothing else on no reports from the gallery. So that being said, let me just throw this one last thing at you. I know it's April 2nd. Everybody's getting well, not everybody, a lot of people are getting their COVID vaccines. And I think as a society, we're just so done with COVID. I mean, everybody's just done with it, right? But I mean, just recently I had another friend go he's in the hospital right now from COVID. So I know it feels like it's over, but it's not yet. Just continue to be safe and keep an eye out on yourself and your friends and your loved ones. Please don't let up your guard now, or we're like this close. I haven't even had my shot yet, and I may not get mine for another 2 months. It's still, so think about the fact that, I mean, there's still a bunch of people who don't. So be careful still. If you haven't had your shot yet, be extra careful, all right? It's just because everybody else is running around feeling all footloose and fancy free does not mean it's safe for you if you haven't had your shots yet. So please still exercise safety. You know, the same thing we've been doing for a year. Keep doing it. The light is right there, and it's big and it's bright, but we haven't come out of the tunnel yet. So please do yourself a favor and be safe, and look out for everybody, okay? That's where I'll leave it this weekend. You all have a great weekend, and I will see you back in my shop on Monday. Yeah, Monday. Let me see if this is going to work now. Let's see if we can push this button and make the stream end.